All right, West Virginia Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, considered maybe one of the more vulnerable in the United States Senate, that he'd be on board with voting for phase 2 of those tax cuts. Take a look. They have another tax measure, a second phase of it, where they talked about making the individual rates permanent.
I'm going to be there to fix it.
Would you back that?
I am definitely. I'm going to be there to fix things. I've watched on both sides, both parties.
So you would back that, Senator? I just want to be clear. They have a phase 2 where they want to make permanent the tax cuts for individuals. You would back that?
I absolutely would.
The reason why I kept pounding that with the good senator is that he voted against, as did every other Democrat, the tax cuts in their first incarnation. Reaction now from former Ronald Reagan campaign manager, Fox News contributor, just a brilliant mind, Ed Rollins. Ed, what do you think of what he's saying here now? When I talked to Mitch McConnell in Washington a couple of weeks ago, he was going slow in this idea of a second vote because it would give guys like him, Manchin, an opportunity to vote for something that could improve his prospects in November.
There are 4 or 5 Democrats that are in real trouble, he being right at the top of the list. And he's going to do everything he can to be a Republican between now and November as a Republican.
Well, he almost is.
Well, he should. You know, the truth of the matter is he should have switched a long time ago. The state has shifted on him. This is a big state for Trump. My sense, he's a tough competitor. He's still going to be very competitive. And I think I don't think we're going to have another tax bill. I think one of the dangers of this is we had a tax bill. We advocated it was the biggest tax bill in history, created a lot of deficit long term, and I think to a certain extent.
And it wasn't the biggest in history by a long shot. Having said that, though, I mean, apparently the fear that Mitch McConnell had was that if you open this up to a second vote to make the individual's rate permanent, and they really, start unwinding in around 2024, 25, you're just inviting guys like these Democrats who voted against it in these vulnerable states to vote for it and help their chances, and he doesn't want to do that.
And I don't blame him for that, and equally as important, I just don't think they can get the 60 votes to pass another tax bill at this point in time. Let's go through the election. Obviously, down the road a ways, we can change it, particularly if we hold a majority, which is the key thing here. One of the ways we'll hold a majority is to beat a guy like him. So.
I was just mentioning, and Charlie Gasparino was too, this notion, the 23 or so seats that would have to flip in the House to make it go Democrat. I'm wondering, given the prospects that Republicans have in the Senate, where they could conceivably pick up seats, do you think it's a foregone conclusion that the House has lost to the Republicans?
No, I do not. I ran the Congressional Committee many years ago, and obviously a lot of things happened the last month. Our biggest problem is we have a lot of incumbents retiring, so they're open seats, but we have good challengers going to those seats. Just obviously better to have an incumbent. The $30 million, if Adelson gives it to us, will be helpful, although money is not the issue. What the issue is can you take untested candidates and make sure that they drive the right message? And I think the committees are working hard to make that happen. So I think what happens is either way, if Democrats take it back, it's by 3 or 4 or 5 votes. If we hold on to it, it's by 5 or 10 votes. It's still going to be a Donnybrook, and obviously we need to hold the Senate.
Very, very quickly, I was thinking of you, having been to the Reagan Library and looking at how Ronald Reagan just really got the world nuts when he was talking about this, space initiative, the Star Wars, as they call it, at the same time, and that no one, the Russians included, knew how to read him. And I was thinking of this president and his approach to North Korea, Rocket Man and all. I know apples and oranges, huge differences. But that when people don't know how to read you, they want to sit down and hurriedly talk to you. What do you make of that?
Well, both are unpredictable. I mean, Reagan had a consistent record, and obviously he rebuilt the defenses of the country, and Star Wars was very important to him. And unfortunately, we never got Star Wars built. We wouldn't have had to worry about a lot of the stuff if we would have had some of it.
But he walked away from Reykjavik, right?
He walked away from Reykjavik.
When that was all of a sudden thrown in there.
And the bottom line is that they had pretty much come to a conclusion on both sides dearming. But at the end of the day, the Russians threw this out, and he just said, "No, I'm not going to do that. I feel too strongly about this."
There's a guy who literally walked away from this. There's something this president said he would do in North Korea, but I didn't realize the degree to which he said, "That's it."
Thank you very much. And it took 3 more years. We got a better deal, but it took 3 years, and he knew what he wanted. He had a real core of beliefs, so it was not just a question of making a deal. It's a question of making the right deal for us.
Amazing. All right, Ed Rollins, thank you for taking the time, my friend. The former Reagan campaign manager, best-selling author, just a good read on all things political. Both sides like him, too, which makes me very suspicious of the whole day.
Makes me suspicious.
Yeah, exactly. Right.